All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another Why Would You Use? But unfortunately, today is more of a why you shouldn't pick, as we are talking about the Bow Prime Incarnon, which, before we go any further, I would not suggest going for on this week's round of Incarnons. It is fine. It is okay, but it has some issues, and it does not really get to where you would really want a weapon with this kind of grind and this kind of requirements to get to go. So, Bow Prime, in terms of the Incarnate, our main thing is that whenever it transforms, we're getting 100% melee damage, 4 range, which is pretty significant, 50% heavy attack efficiency, which is fine, but we're not really going to use it. There's no real way to build hybrid effectively anymore. So not much use. And then we get some sprint speed and some bullet jump, which is nice. In addition to that, we get increased damage by 34. And if we have armor over 450, we get a 30 parry angle and we get plus 300% combo count chance while we are blocking. The 30 parry angle and the combo count chance while we're blocking really don't matter. So this is pretty much just the base damage increase, which is significant. And then we have 0.5 range being added onto here. There's a couple of different stats you can choose from here, but 0.5 range is the clear winner. And then finally, we have the clear winner here, unfortunately, which is that 40% chance of bleed on impact status effect. Now, the Bow Prime is very, very much an impact weapon. Unfortunately, the heavy attack does not always proc impact. Otherwise, this would be pretty consistent for doing heavy attack bleed statuses. Although you could go to a lot of different melee weapons if you wanted heavy attack bleed statuses. But this weapon has very impressive range once you add on that +4. For the build, I have tried a few different things. This is like our main, just hitting guys, hitting E a lot build. And this is our hitting our alt fire heavy attack a lot build. Both of them perform pretty much identically. There is not much difference between the two. I will say it is one more forma to go with this build than it is to go with this build. And realistically, this build is mostly a carpal tunnel like saver. Because you have to press the button less because it is heavy attack focused. There's really not much change in like what you'd be doing with the bow. It's just a little more effective than it was before, and very inconsistent. Basically, we're just gonna hit guys a whole lot in range, and they'll eventually die from the slash procs that we very inconsistently put on them. It's not great. Like, it's fine. We're just building up combo here real quick. Up to the 6x, get the transform, and then we can just spam our heavy attacks here, which do, like, fine enough damage. These enemies are, like, 190, but they simulate, kind of our starter steel path level enemies that we'd be seeing. And the slash procs do a good job, and you can see that I can hit these enemies from very, very far away with my heavies. And I really would suggest the heavy attack build because it makes it a lot less bad whenever you have it to hit a whole lot of guys. And not... Basically, the follow-through is so bad on this weapon that you're going to be in a situation where you are hitting like 12 enemies, but the problem is that you're doing basically no damage to half of those enemies because follow-through, which is a stat here on the Bow Prime, you can see it right here, this 0.5, means that every single additional enemy that we hit takes half as much damage. So if we do 100, then we do 50, then we do 25, then we do 12.5, and so on and so forth. So hitting a bunch of guys, which is the strict purpose of a bow staff, really, in terms of like a big ranged weapon in a game like this, that is its literal one purpose, has its limitations and can only go so far. With the heavy attacks, you tend to get the bigger slash procs that will kill more effectively for more of those enemies in a row. And also like the higher damage, of course, as well. It's it's rough out there. Is it usable? I mean, yeah, sure. It's like fine. It's like all right. There's no like real insane issues with doing this, other than that like a ton of other stuff is better. But besides that one particular little snag, this is like, you know, you could do this. I mean, it hits a lot of guys. It's a very long stick. What more could you want more than just the stick to be very long, right? Other than for it to be like, you know, a bit more consistent and actually killing the enemies. That would be probably good for a weapon that's behind having like good builds for Steel Path in a randomized environment for Duviri. But yeah. Much like the Skana Incarnon, which is also a letdown, and actually even much more so than this one. That doesn't even make it work this well. The melee Incarnons appear to be lackluster, and they also kind of don't really change the game at all for the melee weapons. Like, adding a bunch of range doesn't really change the way that we play these or do anything unique, unlike what you'll see with the Paris Incarnon, and of course the Strun Incarnon, which the video came out on yesterday. I am planning to make a video on the Paris Incarnon, but I just wanted to get this week's ones up first. But yeah, the bow is not suggested. It's yeah, it's not suggested at all. I guess I'm gonna do some Steel Path with it. I suppose it is doable, so enjoy. Oh boy, the Bow Prime. It is worth noting I am bringing the Latum, just in case I need it for the Acolyte. The bow has solved Acolytes reasonably well so far, but its performance is quite inconsistent, as I have talked about. So, you know, just as a little keeping on, the little making sure action. And whenever you proc slash, you kill enemies, but it's too bad that like the forced impact procs in the stance are like really not enough in either of the stances actually. And like the heavy attack is good enough that it eventually kind of like will kill them, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot. Like, so many weapons, like Reaper Prime, I hate the Nikanas, except for the new one. Like, there's so many weapons that every heavy attack, they proc slash, and they do, like, a gigantic slash proc every single time, and instant kill, like, every enemy that you see. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah. Having more range doesn't save it. So let's throw Roar on and see what we get. Honestly, not even really much better. But yeah, this is what's up. This is the do, as it were. But yeah, melee Incarnons seem to not be where it's at. I would say do not expect me to pick any more melee Incarnons until we have gone all the way back around. At the very least, like, my first round picks on Incarnons from here going forward are going to be guns only. Because the melee Incarnons are... they're here. But yeah, they just simply don't do what, like, the gun Incarnons do, which is, like, kind of change the game and, like, the way that the weapons are used. And they're also not particularly strong. So I don't really have much incentive to continue picking them. And that even goes for, like, Hate, where, of course, I just mentioned that Hate is already a good melee weapon. And, yeah. Picking melee weapons for the first 2 weeks has made it pretty clear that I think I would rather pick Despair and Dread. Also, based on all accounts, I would definitely rather have picked the Latron this week, which is apparently as good, if not maybe better than how the Strun has turned out. And that thing's incredible. If you missed that video, I would highly advise you go check that out. Because that is the Strun is a for real new and different weapon. Whereas this is, I mean, this is here. It is a weapon. It exists. It is currently being swung, and it is killing these enemies. It is doing it at its pace, at its current time. This is gonna be I'm gonna be honest. Yesterday, I did the Strun video, and I ended a little after 5 because, like, you could just clearly understand just how strong the weapon was. And in this video, we might end after 5 because, like, I think y'all get it. Like, I will kill the Acolyte with it, of course, and that shouldn't be too terribly difficult at all. But, yeah, it's pretty much just a lot of hitting the heavy attack button. Oh, I gotta re-up the Incarnon, though, right now. Not that whether it's in the Incarnon or not particularly changes a lot. Like, it's more damage for sure, but it kind of is just, you know, I'm kind of in a canoe one way or another, you know what I mean? A lot of, like, just left, right, just doing the whole thing here. I will say, a thing that's notable about the heavy attack version of this build is it's much easier to kill the Eximus with this, because it gets through the overguard much easier. Oh, thank goodness it's not violence. Armor stripped and dead. Thank you, Cat, for that one. But yeah, even without the Cat to do the armor strip, it is, yeah, pretty much that. I mean, you saw me get through the shields very, very easily, and the health was simply next. But yeah, on like a single guy, it's fairly reasonable, I suppose. And I mean, if you hit a guy a bunch of times, eventually you'll have a slash proc on him. So there's that. The slash procs really do the heavy lifting, and they're just like super inconsistent. Oh, whoops. Hi, 3 I had not been put back up. But yeah. Oh, come on, I believe in you. Get through the Arts and Eximus. Oh, we got a slash proc on him. There he goes. But yeah, I mean, yeah. My general advice going forward is just don't pick melee Incarnons. It's just not to do it. All of the guns, by all accounts, and especially the ones that I've picked, have been like interesting to good, or very good, and the melees are tough. I have not heard a lot on the Furax, so if you happen to have picked the Furax this week, let me know if it is also just like okay, I guess. Because I do really like the bow, but I was hoping for something a little more than kind of nothing, at least. At least if I pick the bow prime for my Duviri runs now, it will be usable, especially after the decrees, which it will very much need to continue on pretty deep into their on Steel Path, at least. But yeah, kind of the exact opposite of the Strun video yesterday. But you know, next week we're looking at the Lex and the Boltor, which, I mean, they gotta made those good, right? Like those just seem like they should be slam dunks out of just from orbit. So we'll see about that. Regardless, other stuff I'm trying to get to this week, if you're curious, is I'm going to be doing all of the Duviri Drifter melees, but for the Warframe side. So we'll see how all of those are. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, even though the weapon's nothing to write home about. Not really, anyway. All right, everybody. Welcome to Post Duviri Month, and thank you to all of the new and returning patrons. There are a lot of them, and it is hugely appreciated for the support. But we have our $10 patrons: Alex Parnham, Arbiter Daydream, Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, Hafan, IQ is Thick, James Harsthorne, JC4 Science, Jesse Richens, Joshua Adams, Lou Zanth, Alec X. Williams, Minty Ginja, Mitchta, Paradise, Tamrielic Wastelander, Zach Zahner, and Zerafir to thank especially. But thank you very much to all of the new patrons and everybody that has jumped on board since like Duviri in this last month. It is hugely appreciated and really helps me run the site and just like get a lot of stuff done and get a lot of guides out. This month, you can expect me to hit up as many of the Incarnons as I can possibly get my hands on, because that is gonna be a big focus here as we see that new stuff, and of course work on more guides and things with the free-to-play 3 coming back around and all that. Yeah, thanks everyone.